Yes, so good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming to today's session. My name is Alexandra, and I come from Education USA Sarajevo, and my colleague Mirela, I don't know if you see her, she's from Education USA Center in Tuzla. This week we are doing a college and graduate admission week, so we have a lot of fun things to do and a lot of things to learn. And today with us we have Molly and Becky, who were very good to us, basically because they agreed last moment to help us out with a session that we really needed some expert help on. They're coming from University of Vermont, and I'm very happy to say welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I'm going to make you hosts, or who should I make a host?
Just set up so that they can all share, right?
Okay.
I think over here. And then multiple, yeah, that way they can share. Because otherwise they're gonna have to be admitting.
Now let me see if you can share your screens.
Okay.
They should be able to. Yeah.
Good. So I think everybody can share your screen now.
Okay.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. We're so excited to be here with you today. My name is Molly Witt. I work as the Associate Director of our International Admissions team, but I focus on our undergraduate admissions, and I'm joined here today with the expert, Becky.
Hi, I'm Becky Pergy. I am International Student Services. I have a pretty unique job in the graduate college at the University of Vermont, where I'm doing international admissions, but then I'm also student services. So I get to help graduate students through the admissions process all the way through when they graduate. So I have a lot of contact with them while they're here. So it's a really great position. Really excited to talk to you about graduate college today. All right.
So sorry. I'm joining Becky today. Even though I'm on the undergraduate side, we thought it might be helpful to give you just a brief overview of the perspective that we're bringing to the discussion today. As you know, in the United States, there's so many universities with different sizes, locations, missions. So we thought we'd just give you our perspective as we're diving into really the content of the presentation a little bit later. So just to start with, if you haven't heard of Vermont before, we're a small state in the Northeast. You can see on the map here, we're really close to Boston, about a 3-hour drive, but there is an airport directly in Burlington, which is the city we're located in. It's a really cute little airport. It's about 5 kilometers from campus, but if you're so inclined to drive, you could drive from Boston. The next biggest city to us is actually Montreal, Canada. So the Canadian border is about 45 minutes north of us. But with that border crossing in there, it becomes a little complex for students to try and land in Montreal and come to Burlington. So we usually say fly into one of the major hub cities like New York, where we have 15 flights a day that go between New York and Burlington. And on the next slide, you can see a little more information about our student demographics. And the University of Vermont is in a really unique position in that we're in a small state with a small state population. So most universities in the United States, particularly when you're thinking about a public research university like the University of Vermont, typically most of the students are coming from that state, but our students don't. So 75% of our students are coming from outside of the state of Vermont. And that means when you're thinking about international students, we really have a great variety of students, not just from the US, but also from around the world. And you can see on the undergraduate side, we have right around 45 different countries represented with over 400 international students, but the graduate students are really better represented there.
And so for the graduate population, it's quite a bit smaller than undergrads. It's about 1,642 students. And from that amount, about 8% of the population is international students. And our makeup is a little bit, it's very similar to undergrad. I believe we are 45 countries as well around the world. We're right around the same as undergrad. So it is 8%, but it's really kind of a diverse population of international students.
I don't see that you have any from Balkans, any students from Balkans. We have to change
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
Change that very soon. Yes.
We love it.
Yes, we want to be there.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of a picture of the graduate college at University of Vermont. So we have 7 different colleges that make up University of Vermont. We have them listed here below the green. And from those 7 colleges, we offer over 50 master's programs and 25 doctoral programs, and then about 10 certificate programs. So for being a smaller college, we actually have a lot of programs, which is great. And so for the top, oops, sorry, did a little click. So you'll also see on the right, there's the top 5, excuse me, I haven't had enough coffee, it's 8 o'clock here. There's a top 5 programs for international students. So these are the programs that we have the most students in for the master's and a doctoral. Something that's really unique about our programs is many of them are interdisciplinary, which means that they cut across several different fields. So for example, we have a material science master's and PhD program, and that program pulls in faculty from physics, chemistry, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. So they all work together to make this really unique curriculum for students. So that's something we're really proud of. We have a lot of programs that are like this. We also have a Sustainable Innovation Mba program. And that brings in, like, sustainability, so agricultural school and the business school. So it's a really cool mix of interdisciplinary programs.
So you heard Becky mention earlier that the graduate population is a smaller percentage of our students on campus. This is really unique for a public research university in the United States. Typically, when you have a public research university, the graduate population is much larger. And what makes this really a great experience for our students is, one, we have this faculty here. They specialize in research, but they are also teaching courses. And this is really special because most public research universities, the faculty either do teaching or they do research. But our professors here are doing both. And so when we're looking to hire faculty at the University of Vermont, the expectation is that they would have both skill sets to be able to communicate effectively in their discipline that they specialize in, but also continue their specialized research in their field. As a result of that, our students end up engaging in research, engaging in cutting edge work within the field immediately upon arrival. Because we just don't have the robust graduate population that other research universities have. But the students who do come to us for those graduate programs are highly specialized, really ready to go. And we also look for students who are really great at working across those disciplines and being able to communicate effectively with undergraduate students who may be sharing some, but definitely not all of their space. So these faculty are really what make the experience quite unique here at the University of Vermont. And they're doing all of the teaching of our courses. It's very rare that we would be tapping our graduate students to be teaching, but it might be a small percentage of our students who do that as well.
So something I want to add about graduate study and how it's different from undergraduate study is typically in graduate school, there is this mentor-student relationship where you come into a program and you are paired with a faculty member. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Typically, these people have a career experience and they're going to be sharing their knowledge. They're also going to be your supervisor. If you're doing research or teaching, they're going to be supervising that. They're going to be helping you publish papers. a lot of times, if you are receiving funding, this funding is coming through this faculty member. And so a grant that they have will be paying for your graduate education. So it's a really, really unique bond that happens in the graduate school. And when I talk a little bit later about fit, finding the right fit for a mentor is super important. So just wanted to point that out about undergraduate and graduate, the difference between both of them.
So I mentioned earlier that our professors are really what make the experience here at the University of Vermont really special. But we're also leaning heavily into that research university aspect, along with our land grant mission, which is to serve the population and help them build a stronger community and a stronger history and education around the mission of education. So being a land grant institution, in addition to being a public research university, is really important to our identity. Just to give you a sense, I think you picked up on this already, but the University of Vermont sits in this really interesting size and location. So we're 13,000 students total. About 10,000 of those are undergraduate students. And you heard Becky say earlier about 1,600 graduate students. We also have a small population that are in our medical school that are US citizens or permanent residents. And that makes up about 13,000 students total on our campus. We're in a small community of Burlington, which is probably the biggest small city I've ever lived in. It acts very big, but you still have all of the beauty and access that come with being in nature. As you can see from my background, we're in a really ideal location. So we're right downtown Burlington, Vermont, but it's very easy to get outside of the city and access other things. And a lot of times our outdoors becomes a research location for a lot of our students as well. And then briefly, I want to talk about sort of the things that make the University of Vermont really special. And then when we're talking about fit, we hope that you're thinking about, yes, academic fit and your research fit, but also important to think about what's the culture of the institution, what's the culture of the city, and are you going to feel comfortable there? So the University of Vermont is a place that has never shied away from having tough conversations around the things that are impacting our underrepresented populations. We were the first university in the country to raise a Black Lives Matter flag on our campus. We're the first institution in the country to accept Black students into the Phi Delta. It's an honor society that started a few hundred years ago. Our students all take a pledge around our common ground, which are the respect, integrity, innovation, openness, justice, and responsibility. And for our students that are coming in sharing multiple identities, there's a lot of campus identity centers that they can create homes in and be able to find like-minded people to empathize with while they're on our campus. I do want to be honest that we are a predominantly white institution, but I think what you'll find here on our campus is that we're very open-minded. We're very much about acceptance of other people, of your identity, whatever identity you're bringing with you. We really love to share and understand what your experience has been and be able to help walk you through the next experiences of being on a college campus. One other thing that you're going to notice here in the state of Vermont is that we have a really strong focus on sustainability. So things like being a #4 green school in the United States, having our environmental school ranked 4th in the country. We were the first university, one of the first universities to ban bottled water on campus. As a result, environmentalism, sustainability is a huge part of our culture, but also part of our academic experience. And Becky's going to talk a little bit more about how that lives at the graduate level.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. So as I said before, we are interdisciplinary, a lot of our programs, and a lot of programs involve sustainability. So there's a Sustainable Innovation Mba program I talked about, and that teaches students about specifically socially responsible business practice. And so it's impact investing, sustainable development, nonprofit management. So it's a great mix of business and also, incorporating the environment. And we have a lot of fantastic research going on at the University of Vermont in our Rubenstein School of Environmental and Natural Resources. We actually had a professor published a study. He worked with Harvard University, and it was about pollinators and the decline of the pollinators bees, the decline of bees, and researching how that affected not only the environment but also human health. So they did a study in 4 different countries, and they found that when bees decline, that the crops don't get pollinated, and then they become less nutritious, and then human development and health actually suffers. So I thought that research always stuck out in my mind because I thought that was a really cool idea. And they went to 4 different countries. So I think 2 are in Africa, 2 might have been in Europe. So it's a really cool study. There's a lot of great research going on here. I think I advanced a little bit quickly, but Molly talked a little bit about Burlington already. I don't know if you have anything else to add about it before we move on.
Just as you continue to think about where you might want to spend your graduate experience, knowing the community in which you're coming into will be a really helpful investment on your time to figure that out. You know, Burlington for us, it's one of the top reasons that students love being here. Even though it is a smaller community, it's about 40,000 people in Burlington, or about 125,000 people in the greater Burlington area. It is very active. Students love to be downtown in Church Street, which you can see right here is a pedestrian only walkway. We're right on the water. So a lot of times students come to us thinking, I want to be a part of this academic experience, and they fall in love with the city that they're located in. If you're somebody who's really wanting to be in a large city, this is not it. If you want to be in the South, this is not it. But for that student who really loves the idea of being in the outdoors, loves the connection to the earth, really loves the idea of being able to balance their academic experience with an outlet that lives in the outdoors, whether it's skiing or hiking or sailing, this is really an ideal location for that. And that's one piece of your puzzle when trying to figure out, where do I want to spend my academic experience?
Thanks, Molly. Okay, so now we're going to get to kind of the meat of our presentation, so finding the right fit. So there are several factors that you need to keep in mind when you're choosing a program in a university for your graduate study. And the most important factors, we've said it before, is academic interest. So it's extremely important that you know specifically what you're interested in a field. So it's not enough to come in and just say, I want to do psychology. You really, for graduate school, need to know, I want to do clinical psychology. I want to be or I want to be a counselor. You really want to know first, before you start your search, what do you want to do? What do you want to study? And you also should really be clear, do a lot of thinking about what do you want to do with the education you receive? What is your future career going to look like? So those are really important things to think about before you start your search. And so while you're searching for universities, you really want to search for universities that offer programs that cover the field that you're interested in. So I would give the example, our mechanical engineering program, wonderful, great curriculum. They don't cover automotive engineering. We don't have professors that do that research. So I had some students who were like, oh, I really want to do automotive. And you have to tell them they don't actually study that here. So if you're looking for a very specific program or interest, you really want to make sure the college you're applying to has that available. Another example I usually give is our Sustainable Innovation Mba program that I already talked about. It's very specialized. So students who want, to learn more about sustainability and, sustainable business practices, it's a great fit for them. But students who are looking for just a general MBA program, they might not want to choose UVM because that's not what they're going to get. They might look at a different university. Something important to keep in mind for students who are doing a professional degree, so that would be in nursing, counseling, physical therapy, teaching. You really want to keep in mind, can you use the accreditation and certification you get from this program in your home country? So you really want to know that before you even apply. You don't want to go through graduate school, spend the time and money, and then find out, oh, I can't use my teaching degree at home. So for our professional graduate degrees, that's something you really want to focus on too while you're starting your search. Something else you want to think about is availability of funding. So I spoke a little bit about the mentor-student population, or I'm sorry, mentor-student relationship and how that works. And so a lot of institutions, they cover, they offer these assistantships for graduate students, and they cover all or half of tuition, and they provide a stipend for doing work in the university. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that later, but generally, you want to look for institutions that have these available if that is how you're going to be funding your graduate education. And just keep in the back of your mind, most PhD programs offer it, but it's not as common for master's programs or the professional degrees, so like the MBA, Masters of Social Work, Masters of Teaching. So keep that in mind when you're searching.
Sorry, before you move on, I do have a question, if I can, if I may, because we talked about this a lot, availability of funding, and we talked about this a lot. So, how do students actually know whether the university has available funding or not? Okay, now now we know what for example, have, because now we talked to you. But what about, if they're interested in 2, 3, 5 other universities? Yep. How do they learn about this? Is there a website? Do they just ask, or how to get information?
That's a great question. So I'm going to cover a little bit later, but I will just address it now. So what we always say at the graduate college is, because it's so dependent on programs, when applicants ask us, we say, please ask the program. So it depends on the program. In most colleges, some universities offer it at the graduate college level, but for us, it's the programs. So it's best to look at websites. Some programs list which professors are accepting students and have funding available. And then other times they don't know from year to year, because it depends on grants or money that they're getting from the government. So the best thing to do is to go online, find out who the program director or coordinator, whoever is the head of the program, and to write to them directly to ask. Okay. So next, Molly talked a little bit about location. So a lot of times for graduate students, really academic interests and funding are the main driving factors, but you also want to look type of location you're looking for: large city, small rural town, something in between. Are you looking to be in a part of the US where you're going to be close to family or friends? Also thinking, how important is it to have a community of people from your home country in that area already? Excuse me. Oh no, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. So it's not the most important factor, but you really want to be somewhere where it is going to contribute to your overall happiness. Molly had said, a little bit before about, parts of the country. And so if you're someone who can't take heat and humidity, you might not want to check out the South. You might want to look at the Northeast for school. So yeah, definitely not the driving factor, but something that is still important to your overall happiness. Another thing you want to think about is the size of the school or program. So do you want to be part of a large graduate program that typically takes a lot of students, has large incoming cohorts, or do you want to go to a more highly selective program that only takes a few cohort members, but you're going to get a lot more personalized attention? So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the requirements for graduate application. So these are specific to UVM, but you'll find that these are pretty similar across the board to what other universities are going to be requiring for your application. So typically there's always some type of application fee. That's pretty standard. Something I really want to highlight is the statement of purpose. So this is a very, very important part of your graduate application. So you should state why you're interested in the field and the university in your statement of purpose. And you want to be as specific as possible here. So if you know you want to study plant biology and you're really interested in, say, Dr. Preston's lab and his work on grass adaptation to temperate climate, you should mention that in your statement of purpose. If there is a professor you are interested in a really specific area, it's great to put that in the statement of purpose. So a theme I'm going to keep saying again is do your research. So you really want to research about the graduate program and the research interests of the faculty. And you want to show how you can contribute to the learning that's already happening at the graduate college or university. And you really want to, again, be specific about it. There are times where, you read a statement of purpose in the graduate college where it's very, very generic, and they don't mention anything about your university or any specific field of study. Sometimes students even forget to change the name if I really want to go to, Harvard University, but they send it to UVM. So things like that, you really want to make sure that the person reading this application knows that you have done your research and that you think that UVM is the best fit for you. And really, in the statement of purpose, talk yourself up. This is not the place to be, be humble, but also really talk about your academic or professional qualifications and why you think you're a good fit for UVM, or I'm sorry, any college. And another specific thing also with working with people who have funding, this is something you want to check with the program, but some programs want you to mention a faculty member. So it's only, they only accept students based on which faculty members have funding available. So you're going to want to, again, look at the program website, see if they mention that, contact the program to ask, do I have to mention a mentor in my statement of purpose? Next, letters of recommendation. So these are also very important to the graduate application. And I really recommend that you get letters from faculty or professionals that are in the field that you're looking to go into. So if you want to go into electrical engineering, I recommend getting a faculty member from that program rather than geology, because at the graduate level, they really want to see and hear about your experience in the program, in the field, and they want to hear from professors that can speak to that. So official transcripts and mark sheets, that's pretty standard for everybody. TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo are the English proficiency exams that we accept at UVM. These are pretty standard. Something I suggest that if you're looking at several different colleges, you look at the English proficiency requirements and choose the test that is accepted by the most universities that you want to apply to. So if 5 of the universities you're looking at have accept TOEFL and only 2 accept Duolingo, it might be worth your time and money to just take the exam that's accepted by the most universities that you're applying to. Again, that involves doing some research to looking at admissions pages to see what they accept. And I'm going to just briefly touch on the graduate admissions process because it does look different from the undergraduate process. So first step is an application is submitted to a graduate college. So that would be someone like me that would be going through making sure that you meet the minimum requirements, that you have all the application materials in there. And then we send it off to the program for the review. And so the program is going to review your application and they make the decision on whether you're a competitive applicant and if your research interests fit. Basically, if overall you're a good fit for the program and the program is a good fit for you. And so they make the decision whether they want to recommend you for the offer of admission. And so this is a little bit different because typically in undergrad, it's coming straight from the undergraduate admissions office. Here, the decision is really being made by the program. And then once the program makes the decision, the dean of the graduate college will do the final review and check of qualifications and then make the offer. A word of advice I have for the admissions process, if you're really looking for detailed information about the program, so prerequisites, the curriculum, I recommend going directly to the program and asking them, contacting them. A lot of times people will contact the graduate college and we just don't have that in-depth knowledge about the prerequisites for each program because every program functions differently. They have their own set of rules that they make. It's very decentralized. So to save yourself some time in the admissions process, really very program specific, contact the program directly. If you're looking for, status of your application decision or where your materials are, the graduate admissions office is the best place to contact. So here show a breakdown of fees. This is specific for UVM, but you're going to find that this is how most universities break it down. So they have tuition and fees. Typically the fees involve health insurance, access to the library, things like that. And then they give you an estimated cost of what your books and your housing will cost. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job at navigating the PowerPoint today. So for other universities, I think the best place to check about tuition, they will post it in all universities, but it'd be the Student Financial Services page or whatever the equivalent is in the university. So that's a good place to look and try and get an idea of what the tuition is. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about funding. So again, funding is typically for doctoral students. And as I said, assistantships are available for master's students, but it's not as common. And it's best to contact the program directly to see what opportunities there are. And you can really think of an assistantship position as a job. So you are being paid a stipend and having tuition covered for doing work for your department or your program. And here at UVM, we offer 3 different types of assistantship positions, which are pretty standard. These will be offered at many other universities as well. So the first is most common is a graduate assistantship. So these are positions held at the university where students are supported through some type of external funding source. So something outside of the program, something from the university or the college. So for example, at our university, we have higher education and student affairs students, and they are supported by a research grant that comes through the Division of Student Affairs. So that's one type. And then another, this is the most common, the graduate teaching assistantship. So this position, a graduate student is responsible for teaching an undergraduate course along with a faculty member. So the duties will depend on the faculty member and the course, what the needs are, but you could be teaching a research lab section, or you could be doing grading for the professor. It really depends on the course and the professor's needs. And then the next one is a graduate research assistantship, which is basically a position in which you're responsible for conducting research for a faculty member. So you are doing, research, you're getting paid for doing research for the faculty member. And these positions could be full-time or half-time. Full-time would be 20 hours per week, half-time 10 hours per week. So that's to give you an idea, it's 20 hours of work in addition to you taking your classes. So this is pretty much your part-time job, is 20 hours of doing graduate research or graduate teaching. And to give you an idea, at UVM, about 50% of our doctoral students have funding right now. Another form of funding at the graduate level is a department or university scholarship, which is generally based on merit. These vary among the universities, and it's best to ask the program that you're interested in for a little more information to see what scholarships are available. Something important to keep in mind is that typically with the scholarships, they don't always cover full tuition or give you a stipend like the assistantship program. So these could cover all of your costs, but most likely the ones that I have seen do not cover the full cost. Another way to fund your graduate education is through private loans, honestly. So students who are not offered an assistantship or scholarship, this is a good option for them. I recommend that if you're looking for a private loan, that you obtain one in your home country, because in the US, it's very difficult for non-US citizens to get private loans. So it's really best to secure that loan in your home country before you come. Just to give you an example, one that University of Vermont recommends for private loans is Empower Financing. So they are, they typically give loans to non-US citizens. So that's a good one, recommendation for you.
Excuse me, while we're talking about these forms of assistantships, how common is it? And for example, do you do residence assistantships for example, for graduate students, to have, graduate students live on campus as RAs and then, get them free meals and I don't know,
Ye-
accommodation and so on? Is it often? Do people do that still?
So there is like I mentioned before, the higher education and student affairs program. So they sometimes offer these. So that would be a graduate assistantship that they would offer. So there are graduate students who, as their assistantship, they are an RA, and so they live in the dorm, or I'm sorry, the res hall. So yeah, those are definitely available. And again, depends on the program. Typically, you're going to find those positions available through some type of higher ed or teaching program.
And Becky, can I add to that? Because
Yeah,
we have
of
a
course.
number of, we call it HESA for short, Higher Education and Student Affairs. We have a number of students that have worked through our office for that as well. So they do have to interview with the office and be accepted not only into the graduate program, but also be offered a spot in the office. So they'd have to do both processes, which, you know, if you're going to get a free room, doing 2 interviews is not a bad thing.
Not at all.
Yeah. We also have a graduate assistant who's working with us right now, who's through the ESA program. So yeah, a lot of time the graduate assistantship is scattered across campus. And like Molly said, there is an interview process. It is like interviewing for a job. So you're interviewing for the graduate school and for the graduate assistant position that you want to apply to. So here I have just so you can get in your mind, this is what the funding package is for a full-time 12-month graduate assistant at UVM. And so typically these funding packages, they vary among institutions, but they typically come with a tuition, scholarship, some type of stipend, generally cover health insurance for the student. So something you're going to see that is different, and we post this on our website, so students know if I get a graduate assistantship, this is exactly what I'm going to be making. Most universities are going to post this for you so you can get an idea. Something to think about. Something that comes into mind when they're factoring the stipend is the cost of living wherever you're living. So when I was at Boston University, the student stipend was a little bit higher than it is at what we offer at UVM, but the cost of living in Boston is so much higher. So the university had to pay students to cover that cost of living. So I wouldn't see it as an automatic turnoff if you look and see that one university is offering a larger stipend than another. So just think in the back of your mind, like, oh, does that mean that housing is more expensive and that's why it's a higher stipend rate? So just keep that in the back of your mind and don't automatically discount a university because you think the stipend isn't high enough. Okay. So that brings us to the end. Please open it up now and please let us know if you have any questions, having to answer anything you might have.
I did have one more question and
And you forgot.
And I forgot. It's just,
You have great questions.
yeah. Me and as advisor, I always kind of think what my students would ask and what what questions I usually get, and then I always try to get one.
Can I ask Becky, because being on the undergrad side is such a different experience. It almost sounds to me like you were saying, as a graduate student trying to think about good fit, you have to start with the program that you want to study first and do your research about what specifically you want to study and match that with the professor that's doing that research. Would that be a fair way to summarize that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then everything else becomes like bonus.
Yeah, it just kind of adds into your overall picture of the university. So really it is about the academic fit, and you don't want to waste time. You really want to do your research. As I said before, that's the most common thing I say all the time. Do your research, because you don't want to spend your time and your money applying to a program that isn't accepting students or really isn't what you want to study. So it's difficult for a graduate student to come in, start studying, and then think this is not the right program for me, and then switch. And so they spent some time and money on something that didn't fit. So it's really important to do your research before to make sure that the university that you're applying to is going to have everything that you need.
Our students in our current current cohort that we have for the Competitive College Club, they are mostly interested in international affairs, masters, or even maybe PhD programs, MBA, or actually finances, to be precise. We have political science, and we have, what was biology or bio something? Bio something.
Maybe biochemistry.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So we see that, for example, you have some of these programs.
Yes. Yep. We definitely have biochemistry. We also have bioengineering.
Yes. And what about international relations and that kind of stuff? Do you have that?
We don't offer that at UVM.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we didn't miss something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you mentioned political science. We also do not offer that at the graduate level as well.
Yeah, but you have finances.
Well, we have a master's of accounting.
Okay.
So it's master's of accounting, and then the Sustainable Innovation MBA program.
Okay, good. Just to kind of let these students know, and we have two who will be watching the webinar because they're not available at this moment to join us today. Can you just please go back through your slides? I know I have a question for you, and I just—
Which slide?
I think it was
something about the city, or
it wasn't about the city, it was about the application process. I wanted to ask something about your opinion about how to do something, and I actually like—
Oh yeah, here, let me just breeze through
in
these
the
and tell
meantime,
me.
maybe Sarah, Sajjan, or Anita have some questions. Maybe about GRE, maybe about statement of purpose or something.
Is this the screen you're looking at?
no,
slide?
It's not sharing at this moment. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Okay, now it's
okay.
okay. So yeah, we can start from here. I always have questions, don't get me wrong. Application fees. Are there any waivers for the fees, or can they be obtained in some way, or what's your usual experience with this?
So we offer a variety of application fee waivers, and we post them on our website. So some of them, so students who have participated in kind of government funded things such as AmeriCorps. So we have funding, we have fee waivers for those. We're really trying to build our, a diverse group of students. So we do offer right now application fee waivers for students in certain programs. So if they've gone to a historically Black university or a Hispanic serving university. I will be honest, most of these are for students who belong to programs that are in the US. So there aren't typically a lot of waivers that international students can qualify for, but a lot of times what you'll see what happens if a student writes to the program and really, makes their case and says why they're a competitive applicant, sometimes the program will offer to pay the fee on their behalf. So that is something to keep in the back of your mind. Even if it looks like you don't qualify for something, you can ask the program. And then for UVM, the process is the program tells us we're going to pay for the student, and we work it out on the backside. So yeah, so something I'm going to say about graduate college is it never hurts to ask. So even though it's not, on there, can I get a waiver for this? It never hurts to ask, because sometimes exceptions can be made.
What about these unofficial transcripts? Does these have to come directly from university, or students can send them in?
So for the review process, so the application process, we accept unofficial transcripts. And then if a student is offered admission and intends to enroll, that's when we're going to ask for the official to come directly from the university.
Yes. Yes.
And,
and in that case, if you ever receive application from Bosnia or even from former Yugoslavia region, please contact your Education USA contacts, because we here in Bosnia, for example, students are given one hard copy of their transcripts from university, and that's it. Like universities don't keep electronic copies, they don't send electronic copies, they just have, students are given in hand
Yeah. So how we work with students in that case, that happens quite a lot, is we have the students, if they're admitted, we have them photocopy what they have, and then when they come to the US to start classes, they have to bring their original with them, and then we make a photocopy of ourselves, so we can, just make sure that it is from the school, it has the stamps, or whatever is needed from that country to make sure that it's official. So we do absolutely work with students around that, because we know every country, every university, they do things differently. Something that we've done for COVID is we typically did not accept electronic transcripts, but because of COVID and a lot of universities being closed, we started to accept those as long as they come from somebody in the university. We've become more lenient with that, and every time it's a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm. Do you interview students?
Some programs do. It's not standard for the graduate college, but I know programs like the clinical psychology program, the interview is a huge part of their admissions process. And another program I can think of is the HESA program that involves an in-person interview as well.
Okay.
And I would say that it's typically on the program's website, but again, you could ask the program.
Okay. Because we'll be talking today about interviewing as well, and we have more. It's going to be a long day today for us, but yeah. If you would say, have you done your graduate school as well somewhere? What was the one thing that you were looking for? Like, what was important thing for you personally?
So I did a Master's of Education degree at Boston University to do with education or leadership and policy. And what I was really looking for is, is this program going to teach me skills that I can actually use in the professional workforce? So I was looking for actual usable skills. So like one of the things that really attracted me to the program is they had a class in strategic planning, which is incredibly helpful because it just helps you, think of planning in a different way, and kind of a big picture, and that has helped so much in my career. But I saw that and I was like, I need that, I want that. So for me, it was looking at what can I do, what skills am I going to learn, and how am I going to use them.
That was the same for me. I also did an educational leadership program that focused on international educators. And I love education. So being in that realm was really important for me. And then also being able to tack on a certificate around international educators, being able to look at multiple different education systems and understand why they are the way they are, the history of the country, how education developed was super exciting to me. And I would imagine, as all of you are looking for graduate programs, there's something that also gets you really excited. And you'll feel it when you do that research and you find those professors that are specializing in things that really get you like geeky excited. And that's how you know it's going to be potentially a good fit for you.
That's it. Okay. Wow.
I also notice a lot of students, they sometimes say this in their personal statements, but they'll read an article like, in a professional journal about research that a faculty member or graduate students are doing at the university. And they read that and they're like, I want to do that. So that for a lot of students is like, really the faculty member bring them to the program.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the students have questions. I think that I kind of asked their questions already. I'm sorry for doing that.
Well, we do have, and we can send this to you by email. Please feel free to give my email out. I am more than happy to talk with students. We can do, a virtual chat, or, just chat through email. So more than happy to answer any questions they may have.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was a great pleasure. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you again, maybe later in the fall.
Yeah.
On the topic to do another session. Thank you on behalf of my students. Maybe they're kind of tired. Maybe they need some coffee as well.
Yeah, I've been trying to drink it a little bit through this, but I need
Yeah,
more.
I had some water because it's really hot here, so I had to have some water. Thank you for doing this, and I'll hope to talk to you again sometime soon. And students will talk to you at the next session.
In
soon.
about 8
Yeah.
minutes.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Thanks so
all.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.